Did I understand you right when you said that you personally didn't understand a lot about transgender? Did I misunderstand you, or
May have said that. I don't remember things I say.
I love you. It's great.
I think before I started the series, that was
Uh-huh.
definitely the case, I would say. Yeah. But
Okay.
it doesn't matter. I don't, and my whole thing is I don't have to understand. I just have to accept. I know people don't understand me.
Well, and I was going to say to you, I don't expect people who have never looked in the mirror and said, I should have been a boy or I should have been a girl. I don't expect you to ever understand.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
it's a very foreign concept for most people.
Yeah. Right. I relate a little bit with some of the stuff, especially
Mhm.
trans women, I think, in a way, on a much lower scale, because in my 30s, I've done a lot of personal growth when it comes to mental health, addictions,
Yep.
ADHD diagnosis. So I do feel like in my 40s now, I am like finally the person I've been like masking the whole time.
Right.
But again, on a much lower scale, because I mean, there might be some discrimination against mental health and neurodiversity, but not to the scale that there's laws being formed and death threats and things. So, I mean, as you know, I'm in Canada, we have our own trans issues, but not like I see in the news in the States. And I guess, I'm curious about your own story, coming out, discovering who you are, then living the way you want to live, and then also now living in the Handmaid's Tale of sorts.
Of sorts, yeah. I'm coming at it at a different perspective because of my generation.
Okay. Right.
There are
Right.
generational differences within the transgender community, of course, like
Right.
there are within any community. When I first tried the transition, it was in 1970, 71.
Really? Okay. That I didn't realize.
So when we start interviewing, I will definitely highlight that and what things were like because
We're
from my
interviewing. We're doing it.
we're doing it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about 1971.
Well, it actually started just slightly ahead of that because I don't know if you've listened to any of the interviews that Lynn and I did with Dr. Diana Sorrentino, episodes 18, 19, and 20 of Demystifying. That is all of how we are born. And we are actually born this way. Everybody in the LGBT community, their birth is formed in utero as to who they are, what their sexual orientation is about, and how they feel about themselves. That's all formed in utero before you actually are born.
So there's no nature versus nurture. It's just nature.
It's just nature. Actually, in transgender people, the brain is actually feminized. For trans feminine and for trans masculine, it's masculinized. And when they do brain mapping and they compare it with cisgender people's brains, my brain and a cisgender female's brain is identical
Okay.
in terms of the feminization that has occurred. And that's the differentiation that happens beginning with the body in the second trimester of birth. And it just continues to evolve. And the brain doesn't necessarily evolve and differentiate in sync with the physical body. In our lovely Western European heteronormative culture, which we've been subjected to for centuries, both Europe, Western Europe, and all of the Americas, we conflate sex and gender. For most people, and I've discovered this even recently in a group here in the city where I live, normal, intelligent, professional people, sex and gender are synonymous.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say to them, well, gender's between the ears, not the legs, that kind of blows them away because it is formed in that differentiation process. The sexual orientation is also formed in the brain at the same time.
Yeah. And this is something I've learned myself recently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I knew that before, but it was still like I couldn't fully wrap my head around it.
Right.
It took two like 18, 17-year-old trans boys to explain it to me, and they did it wonderfully, and it was amazing. Yeah, I totally understood after that. Because my question to them was, so they were, born female, transitioned to be boys, but were still attracted to females. No, I'm screwing this all up. Still attracted to boys. So, a lot of people are like, whoa, why do you bother transitioning? You're already, the parts fit that way. And they said to me, well, I don't like masculine boys. I like feminine boys. And, there's a huge difference between being attracted to a gay man as a gay man than a masculine man. And I thought about it, I was like,
it is.
Yeah, you're right. It's completely fucking different.
Right. I had no idea what my true sexual orientation was for the first 6 decades of my life.
Okay.
It was a checkbox I did to fit in because around age 4 and 5, I knew I liked playing with the girls. I didn't have words around that. I didn't understand it. I had heard my parents talking about Christine Jorgensen, who came home from World War II as a woman.
I've heard this name. I don't know the
in
story.
the early 50s. So that was my first introduction to the word transsexual. And I heard that and I go, wow, that's what I am. That was at age 5 and 6.
Really?
But I also knew because of socialization, that Western heteronormative European culture shit that we all face. I also knew because
Which
of
has
that.
been great for me, by the way.
Of course.
I'm not complaining, but no, I'm sorry.
No, and why would you? But the bottom line is because of all of that, I knew how wrong my feelings were. And that's when I first discovered and first started to really beat myself up for feeling as bad about myself as I did. I felt shame, guilt, and fear. And I wasn't even 6 or 7 years old at the time.
So you felt shame, guilt, and fear
because
you knew.
Felt like a girl.
Gotcha.
And by 10, I couldn't hold it back. And I told my parents. And I was taken to a psychiatrist in a psychiatric facility where people got committed. And after a few visits and a lot of bullshit that I heard from the doctor about how he's too young to diagnose as a transsexual. This is probably just a little transvestism that boys experiment with. And after about 7 or 8, they kind of grow out of it and it just goes away.
So back then, what was the difference between transsexual and transvestite?
A transsexual in those days was somebody like me.
Right.
Who totally identifies with the opposite gender. And it's a persistent feeling that you need to live as a woman or as a man.
Right.
That's a transsexual. Transvestite today is known as a crossdresser.
Right.
Back in the last century, it was considered a fetish. Some people still consider it to be. It's not. It's something that some men feel a need to do to kind of relieve that stress of believing that they enjoy being feminine and they enjoy doing it occasionally. They'll go out to quarterly events and go different places. A lot of them are still closeted from their wives and families because it's a secret. But it's something that they need to do in order to relieve themselves and feel good about themselves. And it's something that they just enjoy. And
so in the 80s, 70s, 90s, people mixed those two things up a lot, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you were either transsexual or transvestite, and that's pretty much it. Then transgender began to evolve in the 90s somewhere as a term.
Sorry.
People were considered by the medical community and therapists and psychiatrists as psychological, no treatment, no cure. That was removed from gay people 1973. Guess when it was removed from me?
I think it was only like 5 years ago or something, wasn't it?
13 years ago.
13 years ago. Okay. Okay.
2012, 40 years later
Yeah.
from the time. Okay, so I told my parents. It
Sorry.
went
Yes.
very
Back to your
bad.
story. We
It
have the
went very,
definitions now.
it went very bad.
Right. Right.
I was threatened with being committed and fixed, whatever that meant in the late 1950s.
So did you spend time in the psychiatric unit or?
No, I was
Okay.
told either stop telling everyone that you're a girl, stop doing anything, stop dressing in your mother's clothes, stop doing all of this stuff, and you're going to live as a boy.
And you were cured.
Or else. Praise the Lord, I'm cured.
Holy shit. Hallelujah.
That was the first version of conversion therapy tried on me.
It's a little passive. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it didn't work. Well,
right.
from that point on in my life, I just repressed everything. It changed me personally. I couldn't be myself. I couldn't open up to people. I couldn't be social. I couldn't do any of this stuff. High school was hell. I didn't date. I figured girls would figure me out. I got to 1970 and 71. That's when I decided I can't go on like this anymore. And in those days, in this country, anywhere pretty much in this country, if I went out in public as a female, when assigned male at birth, I would be arrested. I would be fined, in jail, my name published in the paper. That was the general rule of thumb. And that's the way it was in New York City, San Francisco, and everywhere. That's how bad the last century was.
How old were you in 1971? Do you mind me asking?
Early 20s.
Okay.
But I went ahead and did it anyway. I found a psychiatrist who was willing to work with me. I started coming out to local people around where I live. I came out to everyone in my apartment building. Everything was going along nicely. And then the doctor took me to be a case study patient at a quarterly meeting of area psychiatrists. I'm in a hospital conference room with about 20 psychiatrists, and I started talking. I didn't get more than 5 minutes into it, and one of the gentlemen stands up and says, "I'll see you all next quarter. I've heard all I need to hear," turns to me and says, "You're a freak. You should move to New York City and turn tricks like the rest of them." That ended the meeting. That ended me.
What?
Yeah, that was my experience with psychiatrists and therapists and everything in the last century.
God.
And by the way, that doctor wasn't wrong. People like me existed in Manhattan, underground, not part of society, and you would never be part of society. You couldn't legally change your name. You couldn't get medical help with hormone replacement therapy, all the things that so many of us take for granted today, which we've only had in this country since 2012. So many of the things that we take for granted today didn't exist and were impossible back then. And none of that changed until the late 80s when things began to open up in places like Manhattan, in other places. There were clinics, privately run clinics, where doctors did do hormone replacement therapy and surgeries and things like that. It was all cash up front, and when you paid, you got a date. That was it.
Abortions. Ish.
Same deal. See, a lot of the things that, like, people think that vaginoplasty, which is what I had at NYU, and I used to always say to my gay friends they would invariably, Todd, they would be grabbing their crotch going, "Wendy, how can you do that surgery?"
I mean, it's a
And
sensitive area, so I can understand why.
I would just look at them all and laugh and go, "I'm having my birth defect corrected." Vaginoplasty was not invented for transgender people. It was for cisgender
Intersex?
women who needed reconstructive surgery after difficult childbirths or multiple childbirths, and they wanted things tightened up and fixed up and all of that good stuff.
Wow. Oh, So where are we here? I guess after you had that experience with the psychiatrists,
Mm-hmm.
you just went, did you kind of go underground, or did you just live life as a boy
I
again?
stopped dead in my tracks.
Okay.
All that told me was these were my two choices: underground, and who knows where that would be and what it was. Keep in mind, too, no cell phones, no internet, no information. And everyone that I've talked to, including Dr. Diana, there was no information in those days. I searched through university libraries from Georgetown in Washington, D.C., American University, all the way through universities in New York and upstate New York. Nothing.
Wow. So, yeah. Did you find stuff about intersex people? Like, were they like studied more than trans people at that point?
I didn't even know what intersex was at that point.
Right.
And it wasn't a thing. Since I've actually interviewed people who were intersex, and I've talked with them over the last few years, quite a few people. And there are so many parallels between what they go through and what I went through. People lose their shit over doing surgery on kids. Well, first of all, that doesn't happen.
Right.
Under 18, it does not happen at all. But they don't lose it over this poor kid is born, but the physical anatomy between the legs that supposedly defines your gender, and it doesn't. It's just a piece of flesh and an anatomy that you're stuck with because that's how you were born. Well, theirs is not quite right. So anywhere between age whatever and like 2 years old, parents will make a decision to do the surgery and say it's a boy or it's a girl. I have met so many intersex people that are now considered transgender because the parents got it wrong. Gender doesn't take form until the person grows at least at a point of 7, 8, 9 and starts to reach into puberty. That's when the whole gender identity really kicks in with force. Mine kicked in as a girl, and that was it. And I had to hide that. And from 1970, 71, I hid that for over 4 decades.
So you tried in 71. You had someone call you a freak and tell you to go turn tricks.
That's right.
That put you masked it for another 40 years.
Exactly.
Wow.
I got married. The first thing I was told as a 10-year-old, once he has a career, a wife, a house, and a family, you'll forget all about being a girl. My response was, no, I won't. And that's when they took me out of therapy. I was put in the waiting room, and that was the end of that. My parents did therapy for about 5 sessions before I was threatened. So, okay, I've tried everything else. I'll drink the Kool-Aid. I'll do what I need to do and see what I need to do to survive. It's survival. I lived in survival mode for over 4 decades.
Well, you're resilient. I mean,
yeah, I did everything I could do to keep going. I did get married. I did have a career. I was in technology. I worked for Digital Equipment Corporation, which was the second largest computer manufacturer in this country, second to IBM. And I worked for them for almost
Dell. No, I don't know what it is.
Digital Equipment Corporation. They no longer exist. They went out of business. They went bankrupt. PCs drove them out of the world.
Okay, gotcha.
Which was no surprise to me.
Sorry, did you have kids? Did you say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did all of the things.
I'm so straight now. Or not straight. I'm such a man.
Well, bottom line is it didn't take. I was so depressed, so upset. It was about 4 or 5 years into our marriage. It popped out in my sleep talking about being a woman. My wife woke me up one night and I was so stressed to the max, I couldn't stand it. I turned to her and I decided, okay, I'll just tell her everything and let the chips fall where they will. We'll be divorced by morning. Well, I woke up the next morning and no, we weren't divorced. She said, as long as you don't do anything about it, don't try to become a woman or don't do anything about this, we'll stay together. I didn't ask why at the time. I didn't need to know. It was irrelevant. I just knew that either I was going to be divorced or I was going to stay married, but I didn't have any other options because my diagnosis was still the same. Psychological, no treatment, no cure, no medical support, no therapy, no nothing. Zero.
Freak.
Total freak. That's how society treated us.
What year roughly was this?
The late 1970s.
That's when you came out to your wife. It was
Yep.
late.
So we stayed married until 2015. It wasn't a typical marriage, that's for sure. Did I love her? Yeah. Did she love me? Yeah. But it wasn't the same.
Would you have discussions throughout your marriage about this, or was it
No.
like after that
No.
initial conversation?
This got swept under the rug. There was about 2 or 3 days later, she said to me, if it would help relieve the pressure, you can cross-dress occasionally. When the kids are asleep, when everybody's in bed and you're in your private room, then you can do that.
She must have found that in an encyclopedia.
Somewhere. I don't know. I didn't ask. I did try it and I hated it. I hated cross-dressing I just couldn't stand cross-dressing. To me, it's not the clothes. It's who I am. And putting everything on felt great, but it reminded me of what I couldn't be. So
like a tease a bit. It was like,
yeah, that was it.
yeah.
And then I would just take everything off, throw everything, everything off, threw it away, and that was the last time. So January, November of 2014, I was done. My health was poor. My blood work was poor. I was type 2 diabetic, and I was over 70 pounds heavier than I am now. I didn't give a shit about myself. I didn't care what I looked like, even though I was
what happens when you're married that long?
Well, a funny thing about that, it does come up occasionally because we'd be out shopping for clothes for me for work. I work from home most of the time because I was a consultant in tech at the time. I did all my work from home. But whenever I had to go in, I had to put on a suit and tie and do all of that stuff. We'd be in the department store and she'd go, well, you'd look good in this or you'd look good in that. And I'd go, whatever, pick something. And she just looked at me one day and said, you want to be in the other department, don't you? I said, uh-huh. The women's department. It never goes away. That's the thing that people miss. This is how we're born. It does not go away. And nothing you can do makes it go away.
There's this argument of, okay, so we'll say being transgender is a mental illness, and that by letting people transition and live the way they are, you're actually just enabling the illness. Or instead of trying to, you know what I mean? You know the argument I'm making. Yeah, okay. I think I've screwed it up, but
no, that's the traditional argument too.
Okay.
And that's the way it was until 2012 in this country, when the diagnosis was changed to being a mental illness, how we're physically born.
It's a hardwire, not a software.
Yeah. And the research on that goes back into the 80s. And Diana, the person that Lynn and I have interviewed, we've interviewed her 5 times. So we've got 2 more episodes in the can. But it's all so important. And there are people in the transgender community that don't understand that we're born this way. It's not common knowledge.
Right. I went through addiction treatment, and one of the most valuable things I got was there was a couple mornings, there was like classes and all types of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that benefited me the most was the mornings where we talked about what our brain is actually doing as an alcoholic. And it's funny because then when you are going through cravings or whatever, you're like, oh, this is what's happening right now in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is super important to have this interview that you've done with the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super validating. It's super, not even validating. It's just understanding yourself so much better and understanding your brain, and that this is a biological thing, not a psychosomatic thing.
I knew from my I found out in 2014, November of 2014, that's when my diagnosis had changed. I went right away to my wife at the time and said, remember what we talked about in the late 70s? And she said, yeah. I said, it never went away. She said, yeah. I said, I now found that the diagnosis has changed. I can get a therapist. I can get hormone replacements, surgeries, or all of that. So I'm going to start with a therapist. She said, okay, go get a therapist. 2 months shopping for a therapist in 2 counties outside of Philadelphia, Bucks and Montgomery counties. I wrote to clinics, detailed about my history. Is there anyone there who will work with me and has the interest or capabilities and experience to work with me? I got one response from one clinic where 2 therapists were interested in working with me. That's it. There aren't a lot of therapists out there that understand people like myself to the degree that they need to be effective with us. They don't have the lived experience. My therapist, I was fortunate. She had worked with a lot of transgender people before she got to me. She had a solid understanding of what we needed, and that was one of the first things she did with me, Todd. Just like in AA, she started challenging all my thoughts, all my beliefs, everything. First session. I refer to it as gently kicking my butt.
Deprogramming you.
Why do you believe that you can't do this? Why do you believe that? Why do you believe this? What's your evidence to this? All the time, what's the evidence?
You see that? I've seen Jerry Springer. That's the evidence. It's true, though. Like in the 90s and 2000s, when I was a kid, the only transgender people I saw on TV were quote unquote freaks on these goofy shows.
That was it. I knew that there were other people out there. I just knew that, like, Wendy Carlos was the person that inspired me in 1970. She did the soundtrack for Clockwork Orange.
One of my favorite movies.
Isn't it? I love that movie. Always have. I went to that movie for the first time out myself as Wendy because I wanted to see the movie with her soundtrack. Well, by the time I ended my attempt at transitioning, I came to realize that the difference between Wendy and I is that Wendy had celebrity, had financial means far over and above what I had, and could do this then. She could pay $25,000, $30,000 to a doctor for surgeries or whatever else she needed and get this happening. And because of her position in society, she could get away with it. I couldn't. So I started therapy in January of 2015, focused. And this is what I focus on now when I'm coaching people. We start working on what's going on between the ears because I formed beliefs about myself and who I am as a kid, as a teenager, as a 20-something, and then as an adult in survival mode, just trying to get by and deal with this. I had to get rid of all those beliefs. Those were the beliefs that kept me safe, but those were the beliefs that are now keeping me stuck so that I'm not transitioning. I didn't believe I could do this. I didn't know what it was going to be like to live as a woman. I was afraid to let go of everything and just do it. I focused on my thought patterns and shifting all my thoughts, rewriting my thoughts, rewiring my brain. In 4 months' time, by the end of April, I was excited. I couldn't wait to be living full time. And my wife noticed the difference, dramatic difference and personality change. And by June of that year, she said to me, "You're moving out in July. You're so damn happy. I'm just afraid of what's going on and everything else." And I looked at her and I said, "I'm sorry, but this is the first time in my entire life I can actually be who I've always been." We don't transition to be different. We transition to be who we've always been. We just had to hide it. We had to repress it and live in fear that people would find out about us.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like a fun way to live. Well, this is why, sorry, I don't mean to make light of it, but I'm a smart ass. I can't help it. But that's why there's so much addiction issues in the LGBTQ community and the trans community. Why trans people are 7 times more likely to commit suicide than the average person.
Yes.
It's devastating. This is why people talk about hormone therapy as life-saving. I mean, it's not literally life-saving, but it is. It is literally life-saving.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I'm walking back to NYU for I think it was my second follow-up visit at the time, and I would leave Pennsylvania, New Jersey Transit to Penn Station, and come out on 7th Avenue and walk 30th Avenue to First Avenue where the hospital was. I'm passing by these black storefront windows. I see my reflection, and I just stand there staring at myself, going, "Holy shit, you finally did it. Everything's in alignment. You are who you've always been. You're always meant to be." The joy was just phenomenal. And so many of the people that I have coached through their transitions, they do find, I tell them in the beginning, we're going to work on self-awareness. We're going to work on self-acceptance. Those are 2 things that a lot of people miss. They focus on the external, the presentation, how they look in a dress and all that other fun stuff. And it is fun. Yeah. But that's not the deal. The deal is you have to change yourself internally, get rid of all of those beliefs that kept you safe and shift them to more supportive beliefs that support you in your new life going forward. And learning to let go.
Let go of
everything. I was not under any delusions when I started at 15. I was going to transition. I was going to be who I've always been. And that would mean turning my life inside out, upside down. Family transitions with you. If they don't, it won't work. That's fact. That's a given.
Did your family? Did your family transition with you? Have they now?
My ex and I divorced amicably. I had 2 kids at the time. Neither wanted anything to do with me. One said to me, "You were my dad," and hung up on me. The other one said, "Don't want to ever see him again."
So sorry.
I didn't waste my time. I did what I thought was the right thing. I talked it over with my therapist as well, and she agreed. Leave the door open to them. Whoever comes in, comes. Otherwise, I need to take care of me now.
Yeah.
I've taken care of other people. I've raised a family. I've done all of this. Now I need to take care of me.
Yeah.
And I leave the door open. If they want to come, they can. If they don't, they don't. And that's all there is to it.
And they haven't?
Well, my ex and I communicate. One of my children is no longer alive. And the other one is okay, I guess, but we rarely communicate.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
But that's back in the last century and all the way up into the first decade of this one. Most people who transitioned didn't try to stay with family and do it. They just packed up and left. Mm-hmm. That just before the pandemic. I moved back into the house. I'd lived away for 5 years. I moved back into the house. I set up an apartment in the basement. We couldn't sell the house at the time in 2015 because the economy was so bad with the housing market. So we left it out of the divorce and we owned it jointly. My daughter, grandkids, and my ex lived there. And then I moved back in, and I lived there for another 2.5 years until we sold the house in 2023. And I had lived there for about 6 months, and she looked at me one day and said, it's really good that you moved away and transitioned without us. You never would have transitioned as well had you stayed here. I thanked her. I said, yes, I know. That's why there was no discussion about the divorce, and we just went through with it, and that was it. Because I was not going to negotiate my transition with you. She had wanted to, why didn't we discuss because I told her in February of 2015 that I was starting hormone replacement therapy, and she said, we didn't discuss it. I said, there's nothing to discuss. I'm doing this for me, and it's something I have to do, and that's all there is to it. And that's when she said, well, we're getting divorced. I'm not a lesbian. You are going to do whatever Lord knows you're going to do. You're going to transition. You're going to be living as a woman, and I don't want to be married to a woman. I said, I completely understand, and I do. I've been asked by quite a few transgender friends, well, didn't you love her? I said, love has nothing to do with it. She has expectations that she's grown up with to be married to a hetero man, which I never was. And that's perfectly understandable and acceptable feeling that she has. So out of respect for her and her life, I let her go. And that was all there was to it.
Are you a hetero woman?
I actually had conversations with my therapist before surgery at NYU and after. They went like this. I have no idea what my true sexual orientation really is. None. I've been living behind my male facsimile. I don't ever think I was attracted to men. I knew I wasn't gay. Don't ask me how, I just knew. But in secret, when I was fantasizing at 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, teenager, fantasizing about being a girl, I had a boyfriend in a lot of those fantasies. And it also made dating as a teenager in high school very uncomfortable.
I can imagine.
Yeah. They might figure me out for one, and then it would be all over school and Lord knows what else.
Yeah.
After surgery, I got really curious then. And that's when I went on Match, or one of them. And as a heterosexual woman, dating men. 2018, 2019, I hadn't put my coaching work or anything about myself online yet. So there was nothing out there that you could Google that would bring up Wendy Cole and anything about me. So I didn't worry about it, and I never bothered revealing. I figured, okay, I'll go out with a man, and if he figures me out, I'll tell him and I'll discreetly leave or whatever the case may be. But I have no idea. And I went through several iterations of thinking about this. Do I tell people up front or not? And both my therapist and my surgeon said to me, well, would you tell them if you had a hysterectomy? No. Would you tell them if you had your appendix out? No. Then why would you tell them about this? This is not relevant to going out on a first, second, or third date. Okay. So I did talk about scared and nervous.
Man.
But I made a game of it for myself, and I was fine with it. I did all of my mental work preparing myself for it, like I had been doing with everything else, and it worked. I had a great time. I love dating men. And then I had my first intimate experience with a man. And I did make a game of that too. And I grew up outside of New York City watching black and white TV with the old movies from the 40s and 50s where the woman said, well, let me go get into something more comfortable. I actually did that.
It's gonna be a bumpy night.
But I did
Did you
that.
throw the stockings over the room divider thing?
I had on my Victoria's Secret outfit with my heels, and that was it.
He couldn't resist.
Nope. It was all good. And what was amazing to me is how much I enjoyed it. It felt fantastic. And my surgeon promised everything would work, and it did. And he had no idea.
The gentleman still
No
didn't know.
idea.
Wow.
And over the course of 2 years, I dated 6 different men. I'm not a serial dater in terms of simultaneously dating. I usually do one at a time.
The same night, but one at a time.
God, no, I didn't party like that.
Oh, okay, okay.
What kind of girl do you think I am? I had a
material
blast,
girl.
though. Todd, I had a blast with it. Well,
Nice.
after the pandemic was kind of winding down toward the end, in December of 2020, I put my website online. The last man I dated found me within a week.
You were no longer dating, or you still were dating when you found it?
We weren't dating.
Okay.
He had moved before the pandemic. He had moved about 80 miles north. I had moved 40 miles south. There were 120 miles between us when he found me. I never saw it, Wendy. I never saw it. Saw what? We went back and forth like that quite a bit. And then I said, well, what did you see? All I ever saw was a beautiful, sexy woman. I said, well, duh. That's what you were supposed to see.
Well, I'm glad it went that way. It didn't turn into what's that movie? The Crying Game or something.
Right. So I asked him again if he wanted to continue dating, and I'm soul searching was what he came back with. And I said, well, let me know when you're done. And that was the end of that. But he still follows me on social media, which, okay, fine. I don't care. But I've had different experiences with heterosexual people who knew me before my transition wanted nothing to do with me after. So when I moved back into my neighborhood and back into that area, basically everyone was gone from my life. Except
physically, they were still in the neighborhood. They just weren't.
They're out of my life. And anybody who knew me from my past was all pretty much out of my life as well. Even people I reached out to from college and all of that. So that's okay. I realize definitely not everyone's cup of tea, and not everybody can handle this. Heterosexual men, forget it. Across the board, pretty much, they wanted nothing to do with me. There was a couple of women who were neighbors, and one of them in particular, she was okay with me as a guy, but now we got along great. We would do walking together, go to breakfast together occasionally, things like that. I would go to a straight bar that was about halfway between where I used to live and where I was living outside of Philly. I would go a little north into Bucks County to this one bar, Bowman's Tavern. And the live entertainment every night. It's kind of a mixed crowd. Like gay people would go there, but occasionally it was mainly a straight, normal restaurant, but open to everyone. And I would go there and sit at the bar, have dinner, and talk to people because that's what I like to do. And I wound up talking with this one couple for about an hour and a half, and Linda and Gary. And Linda was asking me all these questions. Well, juggling my life is a royal pain in the neck when you're trying to explain to people my previous life and juggle all the pronouns and gender roles. I just finally said at one point to one of her questions, I said, okay, I'll answer your question, but first I got to tell you something. And I told them all about my transition, all about everything. We closed the bar that night. With some people, it has the reverse. As Linda said to me, you endeared yourself to both of us when you just trusted us and put everything out there. And I said, that's what I've been doing. And I started doing that my first week living full time as Wendy. I didn't even think about it. And in fact, I always tell my clients, shut off the thinking brain and do what feels right instead. My first time to ever talk with cisgender people was a gay couple who lived 3 doors from me, who left flowers at my front door. Welcome to the neighborhood, Chad and Jason, number 15. The next day, I introduced myself to them. We had a conversation. They told me that there was a running bet in the neighborhood whether or not I was a cisgender woman or one of the cross-dressers who comes into town periodically for the events. And I just decided to live there. I said, I'm neither. In the old days, I would have been called a transsexual. I was born transgender, and that was the first time I ever said that. And because I knew that I was born this way, I just didn't have all the details yet. I said I was born transgender. I'm transitioning. I'm living full-time as a woman. I'm changing my legal identity. I'm having surgeries. I don't know where, I don't know when, but that's what's going to happen. And then for the first time ever, I said, I'm an open book. Ask me anything you want to, and absolutely nothing is off limits. Jason said you shouldn't have said that in front of Chad. We talked from 9 on a Sunday evening, Todd, until 3:30. It blew my mind. I thought for sure gay people would understand me. No, not so much. So I decided I wasn't going to let anyone ignore me. There was a large gay community and a cisgender community. So I decided right then and there after that encounter, I was going to be open with everyone. I live here, and at the time, I was the only transgender person living there that I knew of. So I'm just going to put it all out there. I would go to the local gay bar at happy hour and sit there and talk with people. Typical conversation would go, well, you knew you were gay at a very young age. Yeah. And you hit it. Oh, yeah. And you had the career, you had the wife, you had the family. Yeah. And now you're sitting here beside me. The only difference between you and me, you became a G, I became a T. Now let's have a conversation. And it went on perfectly like that. And so I credit living there for 5 years in New Hope, Pennsylvania, with having given me the experience and the practice in talking with regular people about what it means to be born transgender.
I've talked to, well, I have that series about growing up trans or being trans. And a lot of trans people told me that there's a thing called education exhaustion or education burnout, that they get tired of having to go over and over. Did that ever happen to you? Because
No.
Okay.
And I totally get that. I understand it. I sit in occasionally on support groups around the country and talk with people. And one of the things I stopped doing was encouraging other transgender people to talk to cisgender people. The reason I stopped encouraging it is one of the girls in one of the groups spoke up and said to me, Wendy, I've been living full time for 4 or 5 years. I go to work every day. I do my thing. I live my life. I have my friends, and I don't like talking to cisgender people. I don't like answering their questions. I don't like feeling like I'm defending what I've done and what I'm doing. And then she looked at me and said, that's your job. You like doing it. You have a platform. Thank you. Keep doing it. If I see her again, which I think I will, I'm going to thank her for that comment. I did a lot of reflection after that, and they said, yeah, absolutely. Not everybody is up to doing this. It's not that they're not capable. They just are not comfortable. They don't want to do it. They don't feel a need to do it. Why should they be in that position to do it? Period.
But yet they respect and they appreciate that you are.
Right. And actually, she was one of the first people, and it was last year, to ever tell me that. And I've been interviewed on over 60 podcasts. And I'm starting to get involved with a women's group here where I live. I don't know where that's going to take me, but I'm sure it's going to take me out public speaking. in some way, shape, or form, and I enjoy it.
Do you think that by you saying what you said, like go out and talk to cis people, that the people that didn't do that, you maybe planted seeds of guilt, like they should be advocating and not, you know what I mean?
That's a possibility for which I apologize, because that's not what I intended.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
I've
done the same thing with the mental health thing too. It's like, hey, talk about it, be out and open. And then, now that I think about it too, it's like, man, just because I have a big mouth doesn't mean they do.
Well, where I live now, I live in Providence, Rhode Island. And after last year's election, I decided that, I'm going to get more involved. I'm going to use my voice. I'm going to be out there more. And I had intentionally not come out to anybody around here specifically. If they figured out that I was transgender just by knowing me or talking with me or hanging out with me at one of the local venues I go to and stuff like that, fine. Otherwise, I haven't come out to anybody. So I started being a little concerned about, well, what happens if I do get even more visible publicly, locally especially? What would happen and how would people feel? And I decided, no, I'm going to tell everybody up front. So I started coming out to people late December, early January of this year, and basically came out to everybody. Well, where I live, nobody cares. It doesn't make a difference. It's amazing. I love this because everyone that I did talk to about this and come out to, the response was, well, we liked you before. You're a good person, and that's all we care about. Is if you're a good person, you're fine. None of the other stuff matters. Whether you're gay, straight, trans, like to do weird stuff or whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as you're a good person.
Boy, are they ignorant.
Well, my response to all of that was, that's the way the rest of the country should be. That's the way it should be everywhere.
Yeah.
You're a good person. What does it matter? Whether you...
Yeah, I know. It's well, and being in Canada again, like looking down at the States and what's going on down there. Again, we have our own issues up here with trans bills and laws and things, but I mean, down there, it's like a whole other level. And as someone that's, you're only 10 years ish out and living your true self, like how. Well, we've emailed back and forth, and I know that you've had.
It has had, especially the last 5 weeks or so, has had an effect. Yeah. That was when he actually signed the executive order declaring us a domestic terrorists. Transgender people are domestic terrorists. But this was all part of Project 2025, which I downloaded in the spring of 2023. Horrified reading this thing.
So it was not a secret. It wasn't like, haha, we have the secret agenda. It was out there for years already.
Out there. And everybody I told me, you're one of those wacky libs who believes this shit. No, they're actually saying this.
I'm a wacky lib, but...
Russ Vogt, who is from his teenage years, dreamed of tearing apart the United States government. He's now in charge of the Office of Management and Budget. And one of the first things he wiped out last weekend, the weekend before, first weekend of the shutdown, they're using the shutdown as an excuse to fire employees and wipe out entire departments. Well, everything in the CDC involving LGBT health, they've all been fired 2 weeks ago.
Are they going to throw it out or delete all the research, or are they going to...
Lord knows what they're going to do.
I couldn't imagine being trans in the United States right now. Like, my wife watched, what's this show where they all wear red hoods and they have to birth? Handmaid's Tale.
Handmaid's Tale, okay.
Like, it gives me that vibes, and it
absolutely
freaks me out. And I mean, it's creeping north to Canada.
That's why in 2023 and 24, all my political posting was all around, well, they might be targeting transgender, but watch out. All the other letters of the LGBT are targets also in Project 2025, as are cisgender women.
People with autism. Autism.
Yeah, absolutely. Any kind of mental health issue. So,
not that anyway, but
Am
about
I-
the trans people
am
being
am
trans.
am I
Sorry.
afraid now?
Yeah.
Am I personally afraid? No. I realize things could turn really badly, but they haven't yet. And the
Were
other
things
thing,
better in 1971, or is it just different?
it's very different. In 71, there was nothing open, no open hostilities. Now it's very open, but we have one thing that makes it different. We have several things that make it different. These being one of them. Everybody's got a computer in their pocket connected to the internet and connected to social media and connected to all kinds of communication platforms. So that makes it very difficult for a fascist dictator to take over a government. They're doing a good job of trying, but I don't believe they're going to succeed. In Allentown, Pennsylvania, near where I used to live, that was like maybe 100 miles north of me. Construction worker, a guy who owned a construction company there, had 14 employees until June of this year. Under Biden, his business was booming. Construction was up. He had 14 workers. Everything was good. In June, he was going bankrupt. All of his brown labor wouldn't show up for work. And so he had no workers. And he looked straight into the camera and said, and I'm sorry about all you white guys, but as laborers in construction and carpenters and all of that, you guys suck. You can't, no one can beat my brown workers.
So if that guy was voted for Trump or MAGA, you're saying they're shooting themselves in the foot by...
Well, he did. He admitted he had voted for this. This is not what he expected. And he's going bankrupt. He's in bankruptcy as a result of his vote. I just heard recently another big farmer grows soybeans. He's dead. His whole business is dead. China won't touch his product anymore, and that was his primary customer. They're going to South American countries now for their soybeans. Forget the United States. So there's going to be a lot of backlash against this. The Democrats haven't done a good job of defending us, to say the least. And the Republicans discovered in 2023 that if they ran millions of dollars in anti-trans ads, that would suffice to create social and religious and political divisions in this country and tie the Dems to everything having to do with transgender. That's
the extreme left, as they say.
Unbelievable. So I think the pendulum's going to swing back the other way. I don't know how far, but the other thing that I saw recently this week, which also gave me hope, is somebody posted a rather lengthy post about why people voted for him not only the first time, but the second time. This man has, according to his own niece, Mary Trump, has a world of character flaws. So many so that when he puts himself out there as being the dear leader, people see their own personal flaws in him. And they see him validating racism, validating hatred, and validating how they feel, which enables them to justify supporting him. And that's why there are still so many people in this country that support him. They themselves are very flawed people, and he validates them.
And he doesn't give a shit about them. That's the part that I think is like...
He's a narcissistic sociopath. According to his niece, Mary, who is a psychologist in Manhattan. And she has written, I read 2 of her books, and I knew this from the 70s. That family was Trump's father was a member of the America First Party, which was big in the 30s. They wanted us to align with Hitler, and that was huge in this country. So fascists have always been in this country. That's nothing new. It's just now they're emboldened. And instead of being the America First Party, which was technically a third party, which doesn't work in this country, now it's the Republican Party is the fascist party. No holds barred. That's exactly what they are. And the House of Representatives has the ability to shut all this down and end everything he's doing. Everything having to do with money is under control of the House of Representatives. But because that's controlled by the Republican Party, they have deferred to the dear leader. And whatever he wants to do, he can do. If he wants to thumb his nose at the courts, he can do that because they've already stacked the Supreme Court and given him ultimate control. Don't ask me why I'm optimistic among all of this, but I am.
Well, there are midterm elections.
God willing, we'll still have them.
That's the thing. That's the thing right there. Yeah, God.
And even if he could shut it down and not have another election, I doubt that he could do that. But he's also threatening to post military and National Guard troops around all the polling places, especially in blue states. Those liberals just can't keep their together and keep their society under control. That's why we have to send the military in to take care of them.
Boy, it must be exhausting.
It is.
That's exhausting for me, and I'm not even down there.
That's one of the reasons why I very selectively watch news. I used to be an avid watcher of MSNBC, CNN. No more. They're gone. I learned from the last election that everything they say is nothing but speculation and their best guess and has no bearing on reality whatsoever.
Yeah. Again, it's all just money and what's going to get us the ratings right now. Yeah.
Now, in college, I studied history and political science. I never really bought into the whole Republican world, even back then. I remember Barry Goldwater, 1969, said to the Republican Party, don't get involved with the preachers. They don't know how to govern. It's their way or the highway, and the only way our government works is through debate, negotiation, and compromise between the two parties. If you get involved with the preachers, that will end. That's exactly what they did. They got involved with the preachers.
Reagan did, yeah.
I despised Reagan. Everything he did. He committed genocide against the gay community. That was genocide.
And the mentally ill, actually.
Huh?
And the mentally ill, really.
Yeah. And even my endocrinologist, who was in medical school at NYU at the time, he lived in Greenwich Village. He told me that he witnessed transgender people in Greenwich Village dying from AIDS sharing needles. Nowadays, you can walk into a pharmacy and buy, needles for hormone replacement injections. Well, back then, you couldn't get the estrogen legally, and you couldn't buy needles because of their war on drugs. You couldn't go into a pharmacy and buy needles, so they were swapping needles to inject estrogen that they got illegally and with no blood. That's the other thing. If you do estrogen injections, it has to be monitored, at least for the first year or two, to make sure that your levels are right, and because it's harmful to your health physically to over-inject for long periods of time.
Yeah. Yeah. The war on drugs was actually the war on drug users.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Just say no. That's all you have to do.
God. Yeah, just say no to everything that's out of the hetero norm.
You extreme leftists.
I know. Well, I have gotten comments from other people, transgender people, predominantly in Bible Belt or red states, accusing me of being one of those really wackadoodle liberals out there.
from other trans people?
There are trans people. The transgender community is not immune from Trumpsterism.
Right.
It depends on their location, where they are, and their
What
experiences.
they want to believe.
Yep. It all comes down to what you believe.
Or want to believe. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd probably be considered a groomer by just allowing you on this podcast and telling your story.
Right. That's right. You're giving me space to allow me to groom people and you to groom people. Yeah. No. That is nothing.
I don't even comb my own hair. I'm not going to comb someone else's. That's how silly they are.
No. I'm when I moved to Rhode Island, one of the first things I did was I hired an agency to promote and book me on podcasts. And I learned a lot about podcasting, a lot about being a guest. And it also started me on the path of having my own podcast that I co-host with Lynn Murphy.
A straight cis woman.
Definitely a cis woman. And when I met her, it was in a mastermind group that we both belonged to, hosted by the first podcast host to ever interview me, Christine Blosdale in Australia. So I introduced myself to the group. I didn't hold anything back. I put it all out there. Lynn unmuted and said, "Wendy, I need to talk to you." Then she talked with Christine about what it was like to interview me, et cetera, et cetera. And the rest is history. And when I talked with her, I found out as a cisgender woman, she's known gay people and she knew something about being gay in the gay community, but knew very little about transgender and very little about LGBT as a whole. So we started talking. And we got into our first interview session in December of 2023. That lasted for 4 hours. She said to me, "Wendy, can you come back? I didn't ask you any of my questions." And I laughed about it and said I expected to come back at least 2 more times. Well, we kept going. And by April or May of 2024, we had recorded close to 35 hours.
Just the two of you.
Just the two of us. And it had evolved to being a series under her original podcast. But then by that spring, I'd already come up in the winter of 2024. I hallucinated the name for the series, now podcast, Demystifying the Transgender Journey. I'm sitting there going, why am I racking my brain trying to figure this out? This is what I've been doing for the last, at the time, 9 years, talking with cisgender people about the transgender journey. So demystifying the transgender journey was a perfect fit. And that became the podcast. That's going to be the book that comes off of the podcast.
Is that going to be co-written or is that just you?
Lynn and I haven't talked about that yet. She doesn't know exactly how she's going to write it yet. Originally, she thought it was going to be individual stories as chapters.
Oh, okay.
And now it's not looking like that. The book is going to be a future work. And what we did find out working together over those first 4 or 5 months was we're actually quite good at collaborating. We each bring something to the party that the other doesn't have. And frankly speaking, I give her credibility with the transgender community who might not even be inclined to talk with her.
Right. Which I came across.
I'm there, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And the same for the cisgender community. Who's this wacky transgender person? Lynn gives me credibility with them.
Don't worry, she's with me. Wow. Yeah. It's a cool idea to have both perspectives or both.
Mm-hmm.
Not even both perspectives, just different perspectives.
Right.
Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different, whatever. But just having two perspectives on any kind of subject matter, let alone transgender
Exactly.
issues.
And that's one of the things that I do emphasize. If you've never looked in the mirror and said, I should have been a boy or I should have been a girl, I don't expect you to understand.
Mm-hmm.
My effort is to provide a framework for comprehending this and enabling people to change perspectives. And the other thing that I'm hoping to do through all of my public activities, including podcasting, is create informed allies. Allies are good. Don't get me wrong. But if they're not informed, it doesn't work nearly as well when to multiply my voice and put knowledge out there, they have to have the knowledge too. And that's the difference between an informed ally and just an ally.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, ally is one of those words I feel like I have to earn, not something I just call myself. And like, you know what I mean? Like it's otherwise I'd feel like a fake or like, you know, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
you're well on your way to being an informed ally for sure with everything you're doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
But
I'm
because
probably the best ally out there.
be, oh, I would give you that. I mean, if somebody was talking crap about a transgender person, I'm sure you know enough now to be able to tell them that that's bullshit. And
Mm-hmm.
here's what it really is, and here's what it's really like. And that's all I'm trying to get out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like confrontation, but like I think I know. If I don't know, I won't say, but I think I know enough stats and things. I've done enough research and talking and
Right.
whatever to be like, well, actually,
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be confrontational. In fact, that's the beauty of an informed ally is they're talking to their family members, extended family, coworkers, people in their lives, and people they know. And it doesn't have to be confrontational. In that way, it's also going to change society gradually.
right.
In
Yeah.
2020, during the pandemic, a lot of people discovered in this country, especially, they discovered the 2012 change in the diagnosis codes that we were given, and that now medical support, therapeutic support, hormone replacement, surgeries, all of that was now available. A lot of people discovered that during the pandemic. And there was a lot of people that from here up, they were going to work on Zoom as guys, and from here down, they were the way they wanted to be.
Hmm.
So there was a big wave of transition after the pandemic, and society was not ready for that.
Apparently.
It was a very large number of people that were all of a sudden out on social media everywhere.
Let me ask you this: as someone that's an advocate, so I think during what am I trying to say? So during the COVID, there's a lot of advocates of all types going out there, and like, and then the QAnon and all this crap, and everybody was emotions were running high, and I think there were some trans advocates that emotions again were running high for everybody, and for some people it's like that were potential allies maybe got a bad taste in their mouth because it's like, oh, they're just an angry trans person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just and every kind of cause has this kind of similar problem where some people are like very angry about their cause and really in your face about it, and then there's kind of a more, you know, gently educate everyone kind of attitude about it. How do you feel about, I mean, you're obviously not angry, you're not in my face about it, or anyone else's from what I can see. Do you think it's beneficial or more harm is caused by people that are emotions are running high when they're advocating?
I actually felt that a lot of the in your face approach that especially happened after 2020 was definitely not beneficial to us. It fueled the Republican platform to use us as a scapegoat and a wedge to create social, political, religious divisions. We're the smallest number, the least protected, and only had any kind of rights whatsoever for 13 years. One of our guests that I've mentioned earlier also agreed with that take. Her background as a one of her PhDs is in sociology, and she definitely saw that wave and the militancy of some of the people, not all, but some,
Right.
as definitely counterproductive to the transgender hopes and dreams for the future.
Yeah. It's tough because there is a time and a place to have
Mhm.
that kind of emotion and
Right.
people that want to, advocate that way. But yeah, if you're not careful, you can actually do more harm than good. And again, this is just any cause, not just trans. Yeah, you can just leave a bad taste in people's mouth.
Even still, I let people get to know me first as a person before I come out to them. And one of the main reasons that I personally come out to people way before ever necessary is, okay, I meet this new person. We're becoming friendly. I meet them for coffee. We go for drinks, whatever. How was your day? What'd you do this week? How do I answer that question? If I give everything, potentially it outs me because of the people I work with, the transgender community. Public speaking, what do you speak about? I have a podcast. What do you talk about on that? You do interviews. What do you talk about on that? So I've had to go through a growth experience myself over the last year or so of how do I handle this now? After the last election, I made it was actually, it happened on a Tuesday. I woke up Wednesday morning, realized what had happened, went back under the covers, cried, got up, put on my denim shorts.
Daisy Dukes?
Definitely. They're right up there. I got the legs, I can rock them. And my t-shirt, and I went walking through Providence, Rhode Island for 8 miles, down one side of the river to the bay and back up the other side and through the city and back to my apartment. By the time I got back to my apartment, I decided, hell no, I'm not hiding. If anything, I'm going to do more and be more visible. And that's when I decided I need to tell my friends. And I'm glad I did, because now anyone who knows me, when they ask me how my day was, I can tell them how my day was and what I worked on and what I did. And it doesn't matter. It's all good. And
So really, it's just been the last year that you've been completely unapologetically yourself. Because even before that, you were kind of picking and choosing who you were going to be open to and stuff.
and now it's everybody.
Yeah.
That's a major shift for me. Again. And that's what I've been going through mentally and emotionally for the last 10 years. Everything like that. Part of the thing about mental health, too, I've learned is I need to shut off the thinking brain and learn to do that more and just go by my gut feeling of what feels right to me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I
As my
started
counselor said, go from your head to your heart.
right. I started Toastmasters in January. I went to this group. There was about 25 people or so in the room. I knew I was going to introduce myself. I prepared nothing. No script. I didn't even know what I was going to say or do. I decided I have no idea what this is going to be like. So how could I possibly figure out what I was going to say or do? Just
Did you wear
go
your
there?
Daisy Dukes?
Huh?
Did you wear your Daisy Dukes?
No, it was January. I'm sorry.
Okay.
God.
I haven't had lunch yet. I'm getting sleepy, so I'm just getting stupid.
That's cool.
Just picturing you and Daisy Dukes at a Toastmasters.
Well, you brought them up again. My ex-wife and my daughter used to say to me, Wendy, you shouldn't be wearing those. Women your age don't wear those. I said, what age is that? I don't care. That's just the number. I got the body. I got the legs. I can rock them. I'm more. And one of my women friends who lived 2 doors away said to me, Wendy, you're absolutely right. You do look great in them. Go for it. Wish I could wear them.
I mean, you don't have anything that'll fall out now, so.
No, exactly. Everything's the way it should be.
Yeah. Sorry, Toastmasters.
Uh,
Finish your thought on the Toastmasters.
so I stood up in front of these people, total strangers. I had no idea what the reception would be. I was greeted by the men and the women as I came in. There was handshaking, hi, and all of that. I got in front of them. I looked around. I said, "Hi, I'm Wendy Cole. I was born transgender," and just paused and looked around the room.
Like the fist cocked.
No, just a casual scan. And then I explained why I was there, to improve my public speaking and to get more practice. And then I said to them, "I'm an open book. Ask me anything you want to, and absolutely nothing is off limits." And that applies to all of you. I got a very good ovation from that.
Encore.
Encore. So
You had to do it all over again.
all of my speeches were on this subject. And I was told by several that not only did I help them personally, but also in their businesses, where they actually encounter transgender people that they deal with, and they were never sure what to say or how to say it, or if they could ask questions or what. So they didn't say anything, which made the relationship that much more difficult because it was not personal then. There was no personal connection.
Which I guess is another downfall of someone being emotional and aggressive with their advocating. It's like, I don't want to, you're like walking on eggshells and you don't know what you're allowed to say
Right.
or not say. And
Now,
yeah,
even though these people were not that way, other people don't know how to take them or want to take that risk. So, what I was doing was educating people as to how to talk to them, how to ask questions, and phraseology that would not be hurtful or insulting, that might just open the door a crack.
no
And
pun intended.
exactly. And I was told by quite a few that it worked, that made a difference in their businesses and in their lives. Out of all the gay people I've known, my gay friends back in Pennsylvania still follow me, still keep in touch with me. My friend David was one of the gay couples. I had 3 gay couples on the first street that I lived on. David and Tom lived in one of the apartments, and we had a Christmas party that year. And it was the best Christmas of my entire life. It was just wonderful. And 3 o'clock in the morning, with the party had started at 5, went from one apartment to the next to the condos to, it was a progressive dinner party, and every resident served the course of the meal. So 3 o'clock in the morning, everybody's a little trashed, and I'm sitting at the center island with David in their people are wandering around, and I'm talking with David, and there's tears running down his face. I said, "What's wrong, David?" He said, "When he always left the DY off. I have to apologize to you." I said, "Why? You didn't do anything to me." He said, "No, you've lived here for 6 months. You've been so open, so vulnerable, and shared your entire life with everybody in the entire area, to say nothing of all your neighbors and everyone here and everyone at the bars. I feel so embarrassed how I used to think about people like you. I used to think horrible thoughts about people who were transgender. And now I'm just so embarrassed about it." I got up off my stool. I walked over to him. I hugged him, kissed him on both cheeks, and said, "That's okay, David. We're friends." I talked with him as recently as this past spring. He called me. And then again, recently, we were texting. And he told me the same things. He said to me this last spring, he said, "You made my life 1,000 times better by knowing you." I now work with 2 transgender people. I know other people who are different in other ways, and I love them all. That's a huge change for me, and I owe it all to knowing you.
Amazing.
I took that as a testimony that what I'm doing is what I'm here to do. It's what the universe put me here to do, and it's what I'm doing.
Awesome. Yeah. It's amazing what talking with, conversing, meeting with people that are different than you, how we're all not that different, really.
No.
At all, really. Yeah.
You'll find me at one of my neighborhood hangouts this winter, sitting at the bar with a group of guys. There'll be occasional women around too, but a lot of times it's with the guys watching the Celtics play basketball. Or they'll have the Bruins hockey game on or something like that, or during football season. I never watch.
I'm a Lions fan.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I followed the Celtics when I lived in New England before, and I followed the Sox religiously. Football, not so much the Patriots. I'll get hung for that one.
Well, last night the Blue Jays, Canada's team, made it to the World Series. So,
Huh? When I worked for Digital Equipment Corporation, I was responsible at one of my jobs for sending computer equipment to our facility outside of Toronto, Canada. We had a manufacturing facility there. Well, I thought nothing of it. I packed up all this stuff. I had it all packed. It was on the docks. Off it went on the truck. And the next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call. Why are you sending all of this computer equipment to Toronto without export paperwork? So Toronto? Yeah, that is Canada, isn't it? I always thought of it as the Toronto Blue Jays, the American League.
yeah, I know. It's hilarious that they're in the America. I mean, Canada is part of America.
Yeah.
That's something I almost said it, that people from the U.S. don't understand. It's like America's actually like all of it, not just the U.S. But yeah, it is confusing, and yeah, it is weird. Like when Montreal too. I don't know what league they were in. Were they in the National? I don't even know. Montreal Expos? I don't know. Yeah.
I was living in Schenectady, New York, so I could get on what they called the Northway. And 4 hours later, I'd be in Montreal.
Nice. I've never been to Montreal, but
I enjoyed Montreal. I went there twice and everybody spoke English. But there was one time I went and nobody spoke English. Everybody was speaking French. And I knew, even the policemen knew how to speak English. And they refused to answer directions in anything other than French.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
They're very protective of their language. I mean, language is a huge part of culture, and they really, I mean, there's laws. Like, yeah, that they're very, very protective of it. And whether it's a pain in the ass or not, I don't know. I've never been there.
It's a beautiful city.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen pictures, and it's like some of it's like you may as well be in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
it's definitely very European.
When you have to go really soon, I'm getting texts from my family. But before I go, is there anything that you want to make sure you said that you haven't said, or any subject matters, or anything that this is your last chance to say what you want? Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. As far as being born transgender, this is who we've always been. This is natural. It's part of nature. It's part of humanity. The Western European culture, which affects Western Europe and all of the Americas, is dead wrong. They conflate sex and gender as being synonymous, and there's only male, female, and binary, and that's it. And we're one of the few cultures that does that. Native Americans spoke English when the Pilgrims got here. That shocked them. Native Americans had transgender people as shaman and tribe leaders because they were dual-spirited. And I've met a lot of very intelligent transgender people, one of whom is a close friend, and she transitioned when she started medical school. Talk about a double whammy, starting medical school and transitioning at the same time. And she's done a beautiful job. And she's in her 30s.
Nice. I wonder if I'll ever meet an intelligent trans person. Sorry.
Todd, this has been great.
Good?
If anyone wants to reach out to me, it's meetwendycole.com. My calendar's there, my newsletter's there, and a link back to my main website's there that puts you in my blog, which has all my podcast interviews in there as well. Plus, there's a whole bunch of other things on that website about me.
And you never know, maybe I'll be a guest one day.
Definitely. And yes, we definitely want to have you on Demystifying.
Be honored.
That will be in November.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
No problem. Yeah. Whenever Lynn? No, God damn it. Who's your co-host?
Lynn Murphy.
Oh, I was right. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. Whenever Lynn's feeling up to it, whatever. I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. So yeah.
She was going to start rescheduling people this week, and I told her, no, you're going to do some more healing. You can start rescheduling next week. That was my suggestion, very strongly worded suggestion, by the way. She really is just as passionate about what we're doing as I am and what you are. So I think it's all great.